Ogunwusi, Oni of Ife, Kábíyèsí, the Adekoruwa of Igboho, Kábíyèsí, the representative of the Ayankunrin of Ikorodu, Kábíyèsí, the Aremo of Ikorodu, I greet you as well. Our past ministers here present, my colleagues in the banking industry, because I can't miss you out, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Let me first of all express my appreciation for being invited to speak at this occasion. For me, it's indeed humbling and a privilege. It's a pregnant topic as far as I'm concerned that I'll be delivering. As you can see, Mrs. Ekundayo is the 29th president of the Institute and the first female who happened for 57 years. So, as you can see, this topic is very apt. The topic before me is diversity, inclusiveness, and corporate governance as tools for sustainable development. I'm sorry. I'll just go see. The topic, as you can see, the objective is sustainable development. So I'm going to have an in-depth look at sustainable development to start with. Sustainable development has been defined in many ways, but the most frequently quoted definition is from our Common Future, also known as the Brundtland Report. Sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. The overall goal of sustainable development is the long-term stability of the economy and the environment. This is only achievable through the integration and acknowledgement of economic, environmental, and social concerns throughout the decision-making process. Our Common Future, also known as the Brundtland Report, was published in October 1987 by the United Nations. It was deliberate. The aim of the Brundtland Commission was to help direct the nations of the world towards the goal of sustainable development. It was clear that for us to have a long-term development worldwide, we needed to look at the way things were being done. Permit me to travel back in time to understand where the concept of sustainable development all started. The concept of sustainable development received its first major international recognition in 1972 at the United Nations Conference on the Human Environment held in Stockholm. The concept formed the basis of the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, also in Rio de Janeiro in 1992. The summit marked the first international attempt to draw up action plans and strategies for moving towards a more sustainable pattern of development. Now, when we talk about sustainability, what is it in business? Sustainability in business refers to the effect companies have on the environment or society. In today's ever-evolving world, debating whether to incorporate sustainability into your business strategy is no longer an option. It is a thinner issue. There is no other alternative. A sustainable business strategy aims to have positive impact, thereby helping address some of the world's most pressing problems. A growing number of organizations are integrating sustainability into their business strategy, realizing that they can do well by doing good. This is a win-win strategy, like Kobe says. When we look at sustainability, it can only also be established if it is backed by regulation. So I will look at it from a regulatory perspective. I will be using the case study of the Central Bank of Nigeria. More and more companies are now facing the need to incorporate sustainable development into their business strategy due to regulations. An example is the Nigerian Sustainable Banking Principles. by the Central Bank of Nigeria. Nigerian banks and development financial institutions are required to duly consider both environmental and social risks when evaluating opportunities to be exploited by their business activities. The Central Bank noted that the Nigerian sustainable banking principles are necessary to deliver positive impacts to society while protecting the communities and environment in which financial institutions and their clients operate, especially with some of the scandals that have happened in previous times with the banks, and to ensure that we have a lasting solution to some of the issues. The adoption and implementation of the Nigerian sustainable banking principles are compulsory. I'll take you through some of what are the core principles of the sustainability rules by the Central Bank of Nigeria. Every bank in Nigeria, through their chief executive officer, committed to 9 core principles during the Bankers Committee meeting of October 4, 2018. Integrate environmental and social consideration into decision making, avoid, minimize, or offset the negative impacts of business operations on the environment, respect human rights, promote women's economic empowerment, promote financial inclusion, implement robust and transparent environmental and social governance practices, develop institutional and sector capacity to drive sustainability, collaborate across the sector and leverage international partnerships, regularly review and report progress. To buttress this, for most of what you want to implement, there must be a process of reward and sanction. It encourages. So the Central Bank also instituted an award to recognize and celebrate banks promoting the concept of sustainable banking. The award for this year is scheduled for December, and it will be celebrating banks that have encouraged women development, assessment and management of environmental and social risks as it relates to transactions in agriculture, oil and gas, and the power sector respectively. And then they will be picking a sustainable bank of the year. An example of sustainability in business. Sustainable business strategies are unique to each organization as they tie into larger business goals and organizational values. For instance, sustainability in business can mean providing financing to only companies that have sustainable business strategies. There are truly institutions like that today and growing, using sustainable materials in the manufacturing process. That means you are very conscious of how harmful some of the materials you are using are, and you are mindful in deciding what to use. You look for alternatives that are more and less harmful. Optimizing supply chains to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, relying on renewable energy sources to power facilities, sponsoring educational funds for youth in the local environment. And what are the main benefits of sustainable development? Why it is so desirable suddenly? It's not just a buzzword. It is definitely necessary for the future. The first is that you are able to attract and retain employees. The current generation, the Gen Zs, are very conscious about where they work and the type of organization. So it is a pride to them when they say, I work in an organization that is very conscious of sustainability goals. It also increases values. It's for value creation. You reduce costs, and there's innovation. As we go along, in my presentation, you will see why it will reduce costs ultimately for most companies. And that is a way for companies to better use their resources as it is. Your reputation becomes better, and there's consumer demand. Product services offered as sustainable tend to increase sales and capture a growing audience that cares for their health and the environment. In fact, nowadays, if you are found to be violating this, some people will boycott you. Before you know it, you have to change, whether you like it or not. New opportunities and emerging markets also will come your way when you do this, and then you have a competitive advantage of being first to market, to be conscious of sustainable development. Now, the main topic is the tools we need to use to achieve sustainable development. So I'll be going into diversity and inclusiveness. Diversity and inclusion, I'm deliberately pairing together because most times equity are often grouped together because they are interconnected, and it is only in combination that the true impact emerges. Diversity refers to who is represented in the workforce. Some examples in the workforce include gender diversity, what makes up the composition of men and women in a given population. I quickly counted the number of members of the council of ICSAN to see if there is diversity, and I noticed there is 50%. So kudos to them. Age diversity. Are people in a group for mostly one generation? Is there a mix of ages? I don't want to shake tables, but once upon a time in Nigeria, you look at the composition of the executive council and you're wondering if it's an old people's. I'll stop there. But diversity definitely in age is also desired. Ethnic diversity, do people in a group share common national or cultural traditions, or do they represent different backgrounds? Diversity in physical ability and neurodiversity are the perspectives of people with disabilities, whether apparent or not, accounted for. As Belinda Gates says, if we want to include everyone, we have to help everyone develop their talents and use their gifts for the good of the community. That's what inclusion means. Everyone is a contributor. Nobody is useless. Inclusiveness is about how well the contributions, presence, and perspectives of different groups of people are valued and integrated into an environment. An environment where many different genders, races, nationalities, and identities are present, but only the perspective of certain groups are valued, may be diverse, but not inclusive. So there is a difference. An inclusive workplace doesn't just have a diversity of people present. It has a diversity of people involved, developed, empowered, and trusted by the business. That makes the business more agile. At the end of the day, succession planning is easier. I'll talk about that in due course. And like Stephen Covey says, strength lies in differences, not in similarities. Diversity and inclusiveness are tools for sustainable development. They can improve people's well-being, enhance their talents, because they have been given an opportunity, and practice makes perfect, promote harmony among communities and countries, and accelerate an economy based on equity and inclusion. How will diversity and inclusiveness enhance sustainable development? The first is growth of the minority workforce. Today, the workforce is made up of a very diverse population of individuals from every part of the world, which creates dynamic multiracial and multicultural organizations. Such diversity brings with it many differences in skills, abilities, and experiences. Increase in female workforce. Once upon a time, my gender was an endangered species. To find us at the table was a big deal, and that's why we have that saying, shattering the ceiling, or is it the glass ceiling? Over the past few decades, however, women's participation in the workforce has grown dramatically. This is evident in the investiture we're having today, 57 years down the line. And today, 8 bank CEOs in Nigeria are women. Is here me seeing the group? Show of hand. When we discovered that there were 8 of us, now CEOs of banks, we set up the WhatsApp group. That's to tell you that it was a big deal for us. And we codenamed it Fabulous 8. And we have our own support system. We support ourselves in every way. We're coming. It's no longer our local, but it's for our. Hiring of individuals with unique abilities. There has been an increase and appreciation for individuals with unique talents and abilities. The advent of new technologies and accommodations has allowed organizations to recruit and utilize physically challenged workers in their labor force. There's no excuse anymore. In fact, if you have a bank and you don't have a ramp for those who would use wheelchair, or some form of braille. You enter lips is talking, is to help those who can't see, and so on. So there's enough for you to be able to accommodate those who are physically impaired. Some practical examples of diversity in companies around the world. With deliberate steps, organizations can gain substantial mileage. Let's look at Hewlett Packard, the United States-based tech giant. Goals include note that double a number of Black and African American executives by 2025. They are not joking at all. Double Black and African American technical representation by 2025. Achieve 90%, up from 84% in inclusion index score for Black and American employees in 2021. Achieve 50-50 gender equality in HP leadership by 2030, 7 years down the line. Achieve greater than 30% technical women and women in engineering by 2030. So I would enjoy some of us to look at some of these ideas and adopt them, and there are several if you go on to research. Have you ever wondered if more people from diverse backgrounds are given opportunities, what would the world look like? Let's take some time to ponder. Barriers to diversity are man-made, believe me, sometimes due to insecurity. Look at the names I have here. I'm sure some of you have not heard of her, but there is Rukayat Shitu. She's just 26 years old, and she's a member of the Kwara State House of Assembly. We have Koba, that guy with the very sonorous voice, making waves. Moabudu, Enidia Mogo, Chioma Ajuwa, and so many others. We have our mother here, the very first to break the glass ceiling in ministerial appointment. Mommy, we celebrate you. And so many others. It would never have happened prior to now for 3 women to set up a bank. Setting up our bank, Lotus Bank, started with Mrs. Ajara Adiola, female, first woman to set up a non-interest financial institution in Nigeria. And as she has gone further to set up Lotus Bank, and she's the chairman and the MD, hardly would you find 2 women heading banks. We are coming. Watch out for us. However, when we then go into the real Nigeria, a quick review of the top 10 companies in Nigeria by market capitalization reveals some interesting facts. Only 22% are female, first and foremost, at the table. Then none of the top 10 most capitalized companies in Nigeria has a female CEO. As that when I was putting this together, June 21st, 2023. Board composition of the top 10 companies in Nigeria according to market capitalization as at 2023 remained this 22 to 78. Some companies, believe it or not, has as low as 8% of women on the board. Why? Then let's go further into the public sector. Less than 5% of Nigeria's lawmakers are women. There's never been a female elected state governor. But we are coming. A lot needs to be done in both public and private sector. A lot has been done and achieved through some organizations that will just give one, WIMBIs, and others trying to push for diversity. There is obviously a whole lot more required. We can all do this together, believe me. So why is it so difficult? I will go very quickly, without being too elementary, to how to foster diversity and inclusiveness for sustainable growth. I believe organizations can adopt the following steps to improve diversity and inclusiveness. The first is you need to be informed. Some don't even know that there's anything wrong in the composition. No one is forcing them. They are not as organized as probably the central bank or the banking industry or the oil industry and some of those other well-known ones. So be informed, learn the history, background, and context that inform the need for diversity and inclusiveness. Maybe when you do your research and you know why, then you embrace it. This includes understanding the systemic issues that exist today and the biased norms that went before. Dig into your data. The next step is to understand where you are in terms of metrics. Assess yourself and then determine how you move forward. This will require collecting and analyzing your people data to assess the demographics of the organization, including your leadership team. In actual fact, it has to be one of the assignments of whoever is in your human resources. Hiring must be conscious of it. Set measurable targets and hold yourself accountable. Microsoft, as an example, has said that bonuses, not their bonuses for the entire company, these are huge bonuses, will be tied to successfully achieving their diversity metrics. So you see, everyone will do. Brands like Adidas make a public commitment to hiring from underrepresented groups. Hire for cultural contribution. This means hiring employees who not only align with your company's values, but also bring a wide spectrum of experiences, perspectives, and backgrounds to the table too. You can imagine how rich that would be. Some of the benefits of diversity and inclusiveness. The first, because practically every business, apart from NGOs, are set up for profit. So your financial performance will definitely improve. Ethnically diverse companies are 35% more likely, according to McKinsey & Co., to have financial returns above their respective national industry medians. Gender diverse companies are 50% more likely to outperform their respective national industry medians. This has been proven because this is from research. According to Gallup, 83% of millennials report being actively engaged when they believe the organization fosters an inclusive workplace culture. That percentage, however, drops to 60% when the organization does not foster an inclusive culture. That's food for thought. Because that's productivity going down to them. Innovation and growth. Diverse companies are better positioned to capture a new market by 70%. They are 45% more likely to report increased market share year on year. This is according to Harvard Business Review. And according to Forbes, diverse teams make better decisions, up to 87% of the time. Diversity and inclusiveness can also benefit an organization's bottom line by creating a competitive advantage in many ways. Over time, multilateral agencies have provided funding targeted at women, financial inclusion, and so on, to institutions that promote diversity, inclusion, and sustainability. Now, the most critical part of sustainable development. Let's look at corporate governance. Corporate governance, simply put, ensures that businesses have appropriate decision-making processes and controls in place so that the interests of all stakeholders, employees, suppliers, customers, the community are balanced. So it's to ensure balance, checks and balances. The corporate governance function must steer the direction of an organization across a variety of important dimensions. These dimensions include, but are not limited to, strategic planning. In strategic planning, you identify and capture opportunities today in order to position for and to create enduring competitive advantages and future value. It also helps with succession planning, talent management, but with the intention of future-proofing, particularly at the leadership level. Enterprise risk management, this is a major part of the world right now. Many of the disasters that have happened have been because there was no ERM. But with corporate governance, you are required to look at your enterprise risk management. This will include identifying and mitigating strategic, operational, reputational, and even financial risk within an organization. There are principles that promote good corporate governance. The first is roles and responsibilities. There should be clarity regarding individual responsibilities, organizations, expectations of executives and top management, and the role of executive steering committees. The structure and composition. The board executive committees need to have the right group of people with particular regard to each individual's background, skills, and experience. It makes a richer board. Not everybody thinking in one direction. Purpose and strategy. The executive committee plays an important role in setting the vision, purpose, and strategies of the organization, helping the organization understand this vision and adapting plans to implement them. Risk management, by putting in place an appropriate system of risk oversight and internal controls. Executive committees can help increase principle. The European Union, for example, has agreed to impose gender quotas to ensure women have at least 40% of seats on the board of large companies by 2026. And got to show our talent and we're able to move up to the most senior position. So this is critical, even in corporate governance. We must ensure proper composition of our boards. What are the benefits of corporate governance? First and foremost, it improves your capital flow. There is increased confidence in the company from investors. To ensure that this is a sustainable governance speaks to every corporate governance usually minimizes the cost of capital and the cost of equity, both of which result in optimal capital flow. It also, because with good corporate governance, the decision-making process is defined clearly with responsibilities and roles clearly set out. Good governance improves access to information and enables clear communication between stakeholders at all levels of an organization. Strategic planning. It assists the board members in understanding the environment they are working in and take advantage of simply run roughshod and ruin an institution. Inclusion of independent directors is a case in point. It reduces the risk of conflict of interest. I would like to conclude by saying improving diversity and inclusiveness will enhance board performance. This has been proven time and time again in recent sustainable development. It is important, however, in all this, not to compromise competence. I get out when people say, oh, you got a chance because you covered a quota system. No, it still must be merit-driven. even in our bid to achieve diversity and inclusiveness. Equal opportunity for all is what we're saying, irrespective of background. This will help achieve a diverse workforce. And why do I stress this issue of competence? In Nigeria today, the quota system, originally designed to promote diversity and fair representation, has on some occasions led to us compromising competence. We must be mindful of this mistake. I bid you to join me in giving a very resounding round of applause, if possible a standing ovation, to Mrs. Ekundayo, because what she's done today is unprecedented. She is the first, after 57 years, please let's celebrate her. It's history being made today, and I'm proud to be a part of history. I'm proud to be a part of history. This is a beautiful day. We glorify God for today. Thank you very much for this.